sorry, that was the 92 trip. Yeah, where they got arrested. But yeah, so got down to actually 223 meters. Deepest stuff in southern Africa were found there. So put that into a bit of context. In South Africa, our deepest dry cave at the time was 184 meters deep. Okay. And deepest overall is the famous Bushmansgat, which is 290 odd meters, but that's filled up with water, so you have to dive to get there. Yeah, and then this stuff that they found, especially the deepest one, it's all completely vertical. So you got from up there where they've got the basically like a kloof, which they call the dough line, little entrance going down into a little bit of a horizontal thing, but then essentially the whole thing is just vertical, shaft after shaft after shaft going down. This one, I don't know. I didn't visit this one personally, so I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't look too small. It looks big. Just trying to see. So for a bit of context, like at that point right there, the very deepest point, I think it's about 230 meters. So you can kind of imagine that that's almost 150 or 200 meter, somewhere between that shaft, just going straight down almost. Okay, then the club had its really big expedition in 1993. Quite a big thing where I think they spent about 3 weeks up there in April 1993. The one thing that they did say is it was absolutely terrible because it just rained non-stop. If you read the full report, the guys said that after a while they were just basically walking around outside naked because they had no dry clothes. Yes, that's also a problem with it, is then all that water goes down into these things, makes them a lot more dangerous to explore, and possibly also blocks you from exploring stuff. So not a great time of the year to visit in April. But they did find some really amazing stuff. So pretty much all of these were new caves that they found on this expedition. From our tiny little stuff, getting deeper, deeper, and to the really big one, Mawenja Moena, going down to 305 meters. And as you can see, just vertical going down. So lots of ropes involved. And with all of their reports, they left us a lot of clues of what to go explore if we get back. Like for instance, this one in Big End Chasm, sorry. There's a little crack, a little bit too tight to explore. Another crack too tight to explore. But down here, a draft in the boulders. It is enticing. Similarly with Mawenja Moena, they kind of wrote in the report that right down here at the bottom where it says too narrow, there's some rocks in the floor that you could potentially remove. You just need to take a crowbar with you. I have no idea what that story is about the lost Previta. I can tell you, though, that the rock on a rope was actually a rock blocking the shaft that they pulled out of there, tied some webbing around it, and tied it to a bolt on the wall so it wouldn't roll back down and block the shaft again. I can also tell you that the shaft just below it, called the Big Wanker, the 65-meter shaft, the guy was ascending back up it, and his rope was slowly rubbing on a rock. So by the time that he got to it, it had kind of cut through the sheath of the rope completely, and the core was totally exposed. So they had lots of adventures. And fortunately, they left us a bit of a map of the area and where they'd found these different caves. So we had well, there was some kind of idea of how to find them again. Yeah, so fast forward many, many years. For many years, nobody ever went back. And then late 2015, this guy contacts us. His name is Ryan. He's from the Zimbabwe Mountain Club, I think. Dirk can correct me. Dirk was also on the expedition. He contacted us. He'd been hiking up there with his friends, found these caves again and wanted to go explore them. So that kind of kick-started a new set of exploration for these. We did a bit of our homework, tried and got that previous map of caves and plotted where we think they more or less are on Google Earth. High up in the mountains. Got a group together, and in August 2016, a group of us got together and we were off. I think this was around 8 o'clock on a Friday night when we went. 6 of us in a Land Rover with a big trailer full of gear. Not without problems. No, dogs did not go with, luckily. But not without problems, because halfway to the border, the Land Rover's lights died. And that over there is, well, we figured out that whilst the general lights had died, the brights still worked perfectly. Well, all the lights worked if you switched the brights on. But not wanting to blind everybody on the road, duct tape the brights, or the brightest section, and you can drive. So with slightly dimmed brights, we could set off again. We got to Bait Bridge about just after sunrise. That's the only photo I have at Bait Bridge, because that's my opinion of it. Took us about 4 hours to get through the border. But we got through. And carrying on the road, we only had one roadblock, I think. Unfortunately, that roadblock was right in front of the sign, indicating that the road that we wanted to take to the right was over here. So it blocked the sign. So just after the border, we were over there at that turnoff where the sign was blocked, and we were supposed to go up this way. We missed that and went up this way, and only realized it about there. So yeah, really scenic tour of Zimbabwe, which added about 2 hours to our trip. At least it's a really beautiful place to drive through. Lots of baobab trees, lots of mupani woodland. I love the road, so it was actually quite nice. And eventually we got to our destination just at sunset. So 22 hours of travel. Yeah, there we met Andrew Munoz. He's a Canadian caver who joined us for the expedition. And we set off to work to repack our gear and get ready, because the next morning we're leaving to hike up the mountain. So organizing all of our gear and organizing all of our gear. Andrew was great. He got us a sponsorship from Pigeon Mountain Industries. Don't know if anybody knows them, PMI. 500 meters of rope, 200 meters of webbing, and I think from our side, from the SEC side, we had carabiners, and we also got some sponsorships from Hilti, where they lent us some a drill, and donated us a bunch of bolts and stuff. So that night, big packing exercise. Eventually, when that was finished, you could at least chill a bit, have a braai, play some pool. And very early the next morning, we went out to, I think, Outward Bound, actually. We started hiking from there with 2 armed guides. There's still a lot of illegal, well, back then there was still a lot of illegal gold mining going up. So anybody going up then had to be accompanied by armed guides. And if you check in the back, lots of guys to help us carry up the gear. 10 porters, I think. The hike itself from there is not very far. I have in my memory 12 kilometers, but over a kilometer straight up. Because we need to get all the way to the very top up there. And we were very heavily loaded. This guy's carrying up solar panels so we can get up there and recharge our drills. Like to compare this a bit to climbing. Climbing, you would obviously just place some trad gear to get up and down. Trad gear generally doesn't work in a cave, so you have to drill and bolt. And most people, when they do visit the area, they only walk up about halfway. There's like a intermediate plateau, which is still about 600 meters vertically from the top. Beautiful area where most people would go. I think there's a couple of like hiking huts up there as well. And then if people go to the top, they might do like a day excursion to that. But our caves are sitting right up there, right at the top. So still a long way to go. Yeah, and gets very, very steep. Couple of us walking fast went ahead with them, with the porters, started setting up our camp. Other people took a very long time. They got there at sunset. And yeah, just a very, very beautiful area. Dirk, how was the next morning? So when we woke up the next morning, what's your wait, actually before I go on, what's your ideas of Zimbabwe temperatures? Yeah, should be nice and hot, right? Woke up the next morning, everything was frozen. This was August. This is just over 2,000 meters above sea level, so not that high. And it went down to -9. Absolutely none of us were prepared for -9. I know the other guy who was with us, David, he actually ended up putting his sleeping bag and his feet inside of his backpack, just for that little bit of extra insulation. Altitude, I think, was just over 2,000, if I remember correctly. Yeah, must have been a very cold. Also, I think the guides who was with those rangers were with us. They kind of said they'd never experienced that cold up there. No idea. We just hit a bad spell. Like the idea with August going there in that time of the year was it wasn't raining, obviously. It wasn't that time of the season yet. And you'd have a couple of months before that where it wasn't raining. So in theory, it would be the best time to do the caves themselves because everything is dry. But yes, temperature didn't quite work with us. And it was quite interesting. Like the moment that the sun went behind the mountain, within a couple of minutes, the temperature dropped by like 10 or 15 degrees. The caves themselves were about 9 degrees, which is very nice for when you're ascending back up them, and it's nice and cool. But if you start sitting still, you get very cold very quickly. But yeah, slowly defrosting the next morning. We're still setting up some of our stuff, setting up our solar panels to test things, make sure everything can charge. Great spot out there just to... It was a little like tap coming out of the rock. It's a little pool of water. But then the challenge started. We need to actually now find these caves again. So we had our little map to work from. But trying to find them, you're basically going through vegetation like this. And vegetation like this. Very often to find a little hole just like that's a meter by a meter, and that would be your cave entrance. We did not take pangas, I think. I think the rangers did have some pangas, but we didn't actually use them much. Anyway, our first goal was to try and find Big End Chasm, so we can go and look at that draft and the boulders at the bottom. No idea why it's called Hall of the Lost Pravita. Inside the cave, we go back one screen. So there's this shaft over here that's 53 meters deep, and it goes through just a little crack in the side of the rock like that. Brett. Yeah, quite a series of different shafts in different areas that go down. Yeah. And I should also actually state that, remember us when we were talking about that plateau that we'd first reached, and you could still see up to the mountain where the caves were at the top. There's quite a bit of spots down there where there's small caves in that bottom section where water is pouring out or coming out in little streams. So in theory, some of the caves could go from the top all the way down and come out there, in theory. Whether a person can fit through is a different story. Okay, but yeah, go down the shaft, and you're in this really beautiful abseil, a 53-meter abseil. And on each of these things, we're taking lots of gear with us, lots of ropes, extra stuff, some digging gear, hammers, chisels, crowbar. This was Andrew. He's fantastic at photography and very quick. It was quite nice working with him because he takes the photos quite quickly as well. Doesn't make you hang there for half an hour. I think, yeah, there was a series of boulders that he could climb up quite a bit and get to this. Unfortunately, in this cave, nothing really found. So, got to the bottom, look at that crack, maybe went a few meters extra beyond what they'd done before, but nothing major. So we had to head back out and go and explore some more. But, yes? I have no idea anymore. Dirk, can you remember? The actual crack would probably have been like all the way down there in the bottom, another series of rocks to scramble down and then get to it, yeah. Yeah, this one, I think we got in and out pretty quickly, but I can't tell you how long it took. And generally what we were doing is we were kind of breaking the team up into groups. We were overall like 8 people caving. So some might go do the cave on the one day, others would walk around on the surface looking for the other cave entrances or exploring new stuff. So like whilst one group might have been in there, the next group will be out on the surface exploring, looking for new things. Andrew also had a drone up there with him, try and see if that could help find stuff a bit easier. Don't think it found anything, but it did take some good photos. Unfortunately, just too much vegetation to see anything from a drone. You actually physically have to go there yourself. And in the walking around, we found things like this. That's another cave entrance. Just some photos from the inside of that cave, exploring it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this one would have been right at the entrance still. It's almost like the very entrance shaft still. So I would this one, yeah, this was actually quite a dry entrance from what I remember. This is Mosbot, the other entrance that we found. This one didn't have much water from this side going in, so very dry. everything up here is quartzite. Yeah. So quite unusual to have deep caves like that. I kind of remember, at least at the time, I think they said this was the second deepest series of quartzite caves in the world, after some stuff in Brazil. I think subsequently there's other stuff has been found that's also very deep. It might be deeper than this, but still one of the deepest series of quartzite caves in the world. It did help a lot. It at least pointed us in the right direction. But then, yeah, the thing is like trying to find a little hole that's potentially like 1 meter wide in this little canyon that's like over 1 kilometer long was still very challenging. And of course, stuff changes over time, and yeah, but it helped us a lot. From our side, I think we probably did have Google Earth already, or satellite images on Google Maps to look at. So we already definitely had that. I'm trying to remember if we actually had it. I think we would have had a GPS with us, but it didn't have all the maps on it necessarily. Apologies. Otherwise I'll repeat it, sure. Okay. Yeah, so when you do find something completely new, it's very exciting. So we were off exploring, taking lots of gear with us, some extra ropes, getting into nice-ish size chambers. It's not all just small stuff. As always, need lots of bolting to be done. Like in this case, we actually had to get horizontally across this big pit in the ground, so we bolted across the wall over there to walk along the side and get across. And going deeper down, big pools of water, just like water from the surface that had dripped down and made these really stunning things in there. Got right down to the bottom pool, and then we noticed something funny. It looks like somebody had been there before. Okay, and mapping the cave out, what we had actually found, we had found this entrance going down, down into this cave, which was a known cave. We just found a different entrance into the same cave. Still a pretty cool discovery, though. And in between all of the exploration of caves, we had a bit of fun. Can't cave every single day. It was a bit tiring. We were actually on the mountain for 13 days, 12 nights that we were staying up there. If you took a kilometer or two walk north and get around the side of the mountain, you can stand over there where I am and get some cell phone signal. Let people at home know that you're safe. Yes, so the PMI logo that we have there, that's a company called Pigeon Mountain Industries. They're based in North America. They sponsored us 500 meters of rope. Yeah, and with the cold weather, making a nice fire was essential. Yes, finding wood in the area was very difficult. Most of the mountain up there actually has no trees or anything. Literally just in those kloofs would you find some kind of wood, and then a lot of it was very wet. So you had to try and make a fire and pack the wood around the fire so it can dry out and do it. But it was great. As you can see, really beautiful stars up there. And after taking a bit of a break, we decided we need to go and tackle the big one. So, deepest cave in southern Africa at 305 meters. Going from the top, there's a little pitch of 6 meters, 7, 7, 8 I think, 12, 24, 42, 25, 16, 65, 10. How's the oxygen down there? That is actually very good. There's a lot of air moving in and out of these caves. This place, absolutely no problem with oxygen at all. Most caves actually are really good with oxygen. They circulate quite well. This cave, just trying to get to it was a bit of a challenge. Actually, some sections where you had to abseil down just to get to the cave, like abseil into the kloof. Some people like Dirk will free climb it. I abseiled it. Then trying to find the entrance through all of this, because the entrance we were looking for so yeah, that is the entrance to the deepest cave in southern Africa. Okay, lots of abseiling, as you saw, lots of little pitches to start off with. Some of them a little bit awkward and a bit narrow, but they usually like go into these little constrictions and then they open up almost immediately afterwards into something bigger again. In this specific one, if somebody were to just like fall down one of those entrances, they would not have fallen far. Luckily, like the entrance itself is only like a hole of like 2 meters. I actually have a video somewhere of me jumping, or no, of Dirk jumping down into it. Yeah, and most of them tend to be quite rocky and boulders at the start. So a lot of scrambling and short pitches, and then as you get a bit deeper in, then you get into the big shafts. Just some more examples of some of the abseils. And some nice stunning pools of water. And whilst the caves are generally about 9 degrees, the water is slightly colder at about 7. So this is David Groenewald. He's at the moment hanging above that 65-meter shaft. So from where this photo was taken, you would have done a 24-meter abseil, landed on this little ledge, walk across, still attached to a rope, then go over to a rope attached to that and do the 65-meter abseil. Unfortunately, I don't have any photos of the bottom of that, but I can tell you some stories. So it took probably, I think we got down to the bottom of this on the 3rd day. Took a bit of time to find it, carry gear to it, rig the top sections, go down to a certain level, and then you come back out for the day. And go back the next day, go a bit deeper, and you come out again. 3rd time, I think we went all the way to the bottom. And then at the very bottom, took our crowbar with us and dug away at the floor below us. Say again? Yeah, looking for any kind of rock or anything to move out the way. The water was kind of flowing down there and into that and disappearing between the cracks. So got to try and find it. Opened it up, got into did another 10-meter abseil, got into a small room with a pool of water. At the one side of the room, I think it's about probably half of this front section. It kind of disappears through some cracks. Dirk tried to get through, didn't. I went next. I got through into a very small room, and there was another squeeze, which I couldn't fit through. And at this point, I'm in the water like up to my waist, trying to fit through it. Decided I'm going to try and get a bit skinnier, so I'm going to take my overalls and everything off and just be there in my underwear and still try and squeeze through this next part. And then something clicked to my brain. It's like, I'm at this point about 310 meters or something underground in the mountains in Zimbabwe. Nobody can even reach me from my own group, never mind getting help from outside. I should probably not squeeze too hard and get stuck. But I really wanted to, because on the other side I could see the water like goes through into a next chamber and goes around a corner and disappears into open air. But I could not fit. And at this point we had no gear with, like no hammers with us or anything to enlarge it or anything. And we had to leave. So it reversed, turned out of that, and had to climb back up for the day. And as we're going up, we're also starting to de-rig. I don't think we de-rigged the full thing in that day. I think we de-rigged, what did we de-rig? All of it? Okay, de-rigged all of that gear going up. Basically like pressicking, but with mechanical ascenders that we went up. So no, the bolts stayed up in there. They were not ones that you could take out. So they are still there for future. They are all at least stainless steel. And the guys from the 93 expedition had also put in stainless steel. And all the stuff that we found that from them was still perfect condition 23 years later, perfectly reusable. I think there was one bolt that wasn't, and that was actually the rock around the bolt that eroded away. Yes, it was the last expedition there, but I'll get into more detail on that at the end. So yeah, after a very, very long day of going up there, doing like 240 meters or something of ascending whilst carrying all this gear out, we were really exhausted. And then something great happened that night, because now we'd been on the mountain for, I think, about 10 or 11 nights. And I mean, 10 or 11 days of food, eating hiking food is not great, right? So somebody was very smart. They made pizza. They had taken flour with them and, I don't know, sugar and what else goes in a pizza, and some little packets of tomato paste and some kind of cheese. And in the top of a lid of a hiking little stove, they made pizzas up there. Best pizza I've had in my life. And of course, the pizza ends with a beautiful sunset again. But then we weren't quite finished with the expedition yet, because the 93 report also mentioned this one cave somewhere in Mozambique. Somewhere they had crossed into Mozambique and found another cave that they had completely left completely unexplored. And this was like playing on my mind that night, like, where are we going to find this thing? We have to find one more thing before we leave. So the next morning I couldn't sleep. I woke up very early. And whilst we were camping up there, I decided to go for a long walk. And eventually I found it right over there, about 5 k's away. Yes. Yes, this was very far over the border. The rangers didn't quite like us going over the border, but we had to go find it. On a Google Earth satellite image, you can actually see there's kind of like a bit of a stream going in, and then there's a big hole over there. And taking a photo from inside the hole, you've got this beautiful waterfall coming in. This is probably about 50 meters across. After finding it, I went back, fetched more people, brought them back here, go and explore, and we were all over these rocks, crawling down into them, climbing down, seeing if there's anything, and we found a shaft going down, but had no gear. And this was our basically our last day on the mountain. So we did not have time to go back with ropes and explore it further. And that pretty much ended that 2016 expedition with a lot of question marks. We've got this really big cave on the Mozambique side that just needs some ropes and somebody to abseil down and see what's there. And we have a squeeze in the current deepest cave in southern Africa that's just waiting for a hammer to go and break open some ledges and see where it goes. And unfortunately, we never went back, because I think the year after this, there was some civil unrest in Zimbabwe, that very next year. Yeah. Yeah, so unfortunately, we never went back. And then life happened, and then COVID happened, and this year, Andreas is organizing a return trip in August this year. 10 years exactly since we were there last. So it should be really good to go back, see what we see. And yeah, that is it done. Any questions? Yes. Unfortunately, I have no idea how long ago the caves were formed or anything. We have one person here who knows a bit more about cave geology than me. Hopefully he can join us in August and get some idea. Although I can imagine with quartzite, it'll probably be difficult to figure out dates. It won't be a simple process, unfortunately. So yeah, don't know much about how they formed, or even why they formed. They're like such deep caves in quartzites, very unusual. I don't know. Okay, so some softer quartzite, and then erosion and stuff around the cracks and that, slowly enlarging it over time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the basic methods of how to map a cave. Yeah, GPSs obviously don't work at all. So the old school method, I'm just going to start there, is basically a tape measure, a compass, and an inclinometer. And through that you get three readings. You get your distance, your compass direction, and what angle it's going up or down. And the guys in the past would basically take those three measurements, jot them down, and as they're going along, they'll do a manual sketch next to the side of it. And at the end of the day, use a lot of trigonometry to put all of that data together and map the cave around it. The reality is we haven't progressed that far beyond it yet. The big difference is we've got a single device now that when you click it, it'll take all three of those measurements. So it'll take still the distance, compass, and incline. And then it transfers it through Bluetooth to a cell phone, and you can sketch on the cell phone. But the basic concept of it is actually still very much the same. There's obviously a lot of progress recently with 3D mapping and stuff, but it's not great for caves yet. They're too complex for our technology at the moment. You need that human interaction to take this very complex 3D environment and simplify it down to a simple picture. Dylan. I'm not sure. I think that's probably a lot of it has to do with just promotion. This has never really had any media coverage of any magnitude. So you won't easily see it in that context. And I think that's what it really needs to get that recognition. Having said that, there is a list of like deepest caves in the world and biggest caves in the world that is more run by like the caving communities. And within those lists, it is recognized on there. But yeah, beyond that, it needs the media. Mm. Yeah, I think it does need a lot of probably international, but probably also even from the side of the like Zimbabwe government and the guys who run Chimanimani. I mean, they could actually advertise it even as having those deepest caves. That could probably get it a lot of fame across the world. Because yeah, if it's not published anywhere, then just nobody will know about it. Okay, any other questions? Kyle. How deep are those Brazil quartzite caves? I can't remember from my side. Yeah. I have in my head maybe 500 or 600 meters, but I'm completely guessing. They're very deep, but I don't know. They're significantly deeper than Zimbabwe. Um, So, I mean, the general method that we followed, obviously, I mean, a lot of this we were just redoing, but we had much longer lengths of rope than what we think we would need. So we'll basically just take the longest one you have, go down to the length of the shaft, and once you hit the floor, you cut the rope right there, and that. And obviously always have knots at the end of the rope so that you can't abseil off the end. But luckily we never had that issue. Although if you do reach that problem, then you climb back up. We've had it in South Africa though, where the ropes have been too short. Yeah, sometimes you can estimate it if the shaft is quite open and you can see the bottom. A lot of the times you just cannot see the bottom, so you are kind of guessing, or you're just going with a long rope. When we initially arrived, there were some people in that little stream that I'd shown a picture of earlier, that were like panning for gold in there. So the armed guards like chased them away. And I think that day when I also walked into the Mozambique side the first time, I think I saw some people from a distance. So it wasn't actually a case, I mean, they didn't show any aggression towards any of us. And the moment that those armed guards were with us, they disappeared kind of. Yeah, unfortunately, I have no idea what the situation is at the moment with people there. Good, you think? Okay. That's a Pigeon Mountain Industries. It's a rope manufacturing company from North America. Yeah, PMI is a very famous brand overseas, but not known in South Africa at all. Does the temperature drop as we go deeper? I don't think noticeably. It wouldn't have been deep enough. And in principle, a cave would typically be the average annual temperature of the area that you're in. But yeah, at this kind of depth, 300 meters, it's not noticeably different, no. Yeah. Andreas, do you want to say anything on our next trip? Sorry, one more question there. In this area, I doubt it. I mean, in theory, so yeah, the question is basically, would the cave ever be able to go like down 1,500 meters or anything? I think in this area, highly unlikely. I mean, I haven't actually looked at all the maps and studied the geology or anything in detail. So, but I just think it's unlikely. The deepest stuff in the world is only 2 kilometers deep. And that's like in Georgia in Eastern Europe. In very specific conditions that it gets that deep in. And for a quartzite cave to go that deep would be very unlikely. If there was any chance, we would definitely have a lot of international interest. Yeah, as far as we know, all of these caves are caused by water erosion. But obviously they haven't actually been studied for their geology yet. They probably have started as minor faults or cracks and then got eroded. There would have been some kind of a weakness along which the erosion took place initially. And I'm just trying to think about the map of the area. I think there was one line that kind of does look like it is a bit of a longer fault line, if I kind of trace it towards other stuff. And then a lot of the other ones just smaller cracks. Andreas will make you talk about the upcoming expedition.
Sure. Well, thank you, Stephen. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, so Stephen roped me in organizing a trip in August, kind of the 10-year anniversary. And those question marks, I think, are worth exploring. So come August, we're going to be back there as SEC, as a caving club. We're also planning to do a mountain club meet at the same time. Paul is not here today. He'll be leading it. Because also for hiking and general, it's a beautiful area from everything I've heard. Hopefully, it won't be -9. So, yes, so really looking forward to that one. Oh. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's the end of the night. I think there is a bit of pizza left. There's some drinks, so enjoy yourself. We don't close early, so you can stay as long as you want. If anybody wants stickers for a mountain club, please get them from Dylan. 2026 stickers.